Good afternoon and welcome back to Live Lunch and Learn. I'm your host, Lambros Demos. And this month we have a focus on ways to manage stress and reduce anxiety. In week one, the incredible Dr. Kimberly Wilson was here and she talked about burnout and ways to avoid it. In week two, mortgage guru Vince Gaetano was here and he shared his brilliant insight on ways to reduce financial stress. Which is a huge part of mental health as well. And last week, we had the amazing Jessica Carter come in who talked about clarity and shared her story on how she bought not just a home, but her dream home and made it a stress-free experience, which is a feat all in itself. As you know, buying a house can be quite stressful. And today, to wrap up the anti-stress month of June, we have a special treat for you. The awesome Alysse Rosner is here, and she's going to share some ways to reduce stress. Sarah is known as the stress management expert. She's been featured on TV and several other media as well. And she has her own podcast. It's called Stress Free Solutions, SOUL. This is quite cool. So very pleased to welcome her to the show. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you so much for having me today.
My pleasure. My pleasure. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm really excited to be here and, share any tips I can to help out.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We're excited to have you as well. And as I mentioned in the intro, I think your podcast name is really cool, Stress Free Solutions. I do want to talk about that. But before we get to that, tell us your background. How did you get to where you are today?
Yeah, so I kind of have been all over the place and, to self-discover what exactly I wanted to create and to eventually have as my own company. So I was a musical theater major at Columbia College in Chicago, and I got into crafting my own music. So I still write music all the time, but I heavily got into Pilates and fitness. So I was training in and out, had a severe burnout, and made the realization that I need to help companies and small businesses cultivate a low stress environment for their employees so that they can actually have healthier and happier employees, which in turn helps their bottom line and they become more productive at the office and at home.
Absolutely. No, that's a great cause. And how's that been going for you now?
It's been really going well. Companies are open a lot more since the Great Resignation. So many people have changed occupations and are wanting to have that work-life balance. And for those that stuck at the same job, what's been beautiful for them is being able to say, hey, I need this time off, or are there going to be opportunities or benefits that we can have as employees working at your company, because we don't want to be burned out and we love your mission as a company. So that's been really, really wonderful to see that people are starting to speak up more for themselves.
Yeah, amazing. So you mentioned the Great Resignation. So I do want to touch on that as well. I put it in the social media post yesterday from some information that you provided. So thank you for that. So yeah, I mean, obviously we can't talk about stress without referring to the pandemic, right? So, and through the pandemic, this Great Resignation occurred where people quit their jobs and moved on to something, I guess, more lucrative, or in their opinion, something better, et cetera. And one of those, or the top choice for people, was real estate. Ironically. Now, I've been in the business for quite some time, but I want to share some stats with you because people going into real estate now need to know what they're getting into. So I'm just going to bring this up on screen right now. I don't know if you can see that or if it's too small. But the column or the graphic on the left is basically the number of sales in 2017. And I know it was 5 years ago, but just bear with me for a second. And how many transactions each agent did in the Greater Toronto area. So the funny thing is, from 2017 to today, the number of sales has gone up and down a little bit. But so far this year, we're on track to have about the same number of sales, which was 92,000, or give or just over 92,000 sales in 2017. So far this year, at the end of May, we have about 40,000, just over 40,000. And the sales in June are going to be less than they were in May because sales have slowed down. So that means, let's say, estimate about 46,000 by the end of June. So halfway through the year, we're at 46. If best case scenario, we double that, at the end of the year, we'll still have about 92,000, or maybe less because the summer is expected to be slow anyways. But let's say 92,000 just for argument's sake. So the same number of sales, but the only difference is we have almost double the number of real estate agents. So in 2017, we had about 50,000 give or take, agents in the Greater Toronto area. I think this year we're at just over 80,000 agents. So
Wow.
incredible amount. And look at the stats here. 65% of them on the bottom left, you can see 65% of agents in 2017 did only one deal or less, right, through the year. Now, granted, some may be part-time or whatever, but still, half of them did only two deals or less. So about 48.7%, or just under half, did two deals or less. In order to make a living in real estate, you need to do, I would say, at least 10 deals or maybe 12 deals a year, maybe one a month, something like that. So if you move up and see the 10 plus range, so agents who did 10 deals a year are only 10% of the agents registered, right? So, and that obviously now is even tighter because we just have more agents, but the same number of deals. So if you do the math, then obviously it's going to be a lot tougher for people. So people who are looking, grass is greener on the other side, may not get that necessarily, right? So that could be a stressor for people. They quit their job, they go into real estate thinking it's going to be, all easy and all this money and doing well, but then they find it difficult. And now with the surplus of agents, I mean, the established agents also finding it more difficult because now they have to compete with all these other agents and disruptors and all these things that are coming into the industry. So can you speak a little bit to that? If somebody's going, it doesn't have to be real estate, any new career that someone's going into, and they find it a lot more difficult than it was, and maybe they can go back to their previous job, maybe they can't. What would you suggest at this point?
Yeah, so I think actually the first one is to kind of get in touch with where they are stressed. So journaling has been a wonderful tool, and I'm sure this is something people have heard a lot because it's now moving into more of the mental health space. It's more common for people to do that with their therapists, as well as doing these activities on their own. So I would ask yourself the tough questions. What do I need? What do I want? What would be in a year's time where I need to be? And once they find those three areas of what they actually can do right now, they have to then make action steps to complete those. So that would be like the first step. And then I would say to listen to your gut. I'm a big advocate for people to learn how to follow their gut. So let's say, Lambros, you wake up in the morning and you notice that your stomach is feeling a little bit empty. So what would be the first thing you'd possibly want to do?
Eat something?
I'll ask you first. Put you on the spot.
Have a banana. That's my staple in the morning.
Ooh,
yeah. Bananas with peanut butter. Yeah.
That's great. So you would have a banana, and then all of a sudden you would already feel a bit more energized. Yeah. So then let's say you fast forward to a couple hours later and you've been on the computer for those 2 hours, and you might notice, oh, I'm starting to feel like my brain is foggy. Maybe I didn't have any sort of water. So you hydrate your body. It's just being aware in those moments instead of saying, oh, don't worry, I can handle that in like a couple hours. The brain fog is nothing. Noticing, being aware on the spot that something is off and trying to take care of it. Asking yourself in the moment, what do I need? What does my body crave? Are wonderful ways to check in during that time versus pushing it to later on in the day so that you don't feel, exhausted or mentally sick later on in the afternoon, mentally strained, so that you have that time for you to go take a break, and then will be more productive by doing so.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great advice, actually. And it's amazing how many people don't listen to their body. So they tune it out, or, you know, but for myself, I'm always listening to my body and what it needs, whether it's rest, whether it's water, whether it's food, etc. Coming from a healthcare background in a previous life, I was kinesiology major, so I kind of got used to listening to what my body needs. But that's great advice, yeah, because not a lot of people can do that. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's great.
and it's a simple thing that people can do right now
Hmm.
versus, completely some people completely change their nutritional habits
Mm,
and then they find themselves going back to their old patterns. So, I think it's even more important to take stock in what's going on right away and
yeah.
just follow your gut.
So speaking of nutrition, does what we eat affect our stress levels?
100%. If we're
Mhm.
taking some sort of processed chip and we're constantly eating like Lay's chips for that afternoon as our snack because it's something that gives us comfort,
Mhm.
eventually that's going to cause a lot of brain fog or a crash later on in the day.
Okay.
So understanding that we need, like you had, a banana to start your day and knowing that in the afternoon you got to take the same kind of snacks. Maybe you add some protein, some nuts, something that will fill you up versus knock you down.
Yeah. Yeah, certainly. What about caffeine? People who consume a lot of caffeine, coffee, what would you
You
say?
know, yeah, coffee's good in small doses, but when we add, let's say, a cup of coffee with 2 sugars and then cream, it's kind of offsetting the benefits of coffee. So trying to
Yeah.
do black coffee, maybe if you need that cream, maybe try oat milk or almond milk to
Mm,
satisfy what's going on. And only having one is ideal.
right.
If you need to wane off, let's say you're a 4 cup a day drinker, maybe try for the day only having a half a cup
Yeah.
and then just going to fill it up a second time in the afternoon if that's what you need. And then see if you can just get it to one nice big cup in the morning.
Yeah, no, thankfully, I'm not a 4 cup a day person. Maybe 1 cup a day. I can take it or leave it. I kind of only have it as a treat for myself, so it's not something that I absolutely must have. But I know there are people who can't function without their cup of coffee, right?
Yeah.
Um, Okay, so what other? I know you're not a nutritionist, but what other types of food or drinks would you recommend? Is time of day important? Like when you eat, does that affect your stress levels?
Yeah. So, it really depends too on your line of work. I feel because real
Mhm.
estate brokers are always on the go, it's important to get some sustenance right at the beginning of the day. For those of you that already do a workout, it's so imperative that
Mhm.
you get a lot of protein in.
Yeah.
And with my fitness training background, that was something we worked on a lot was understanding macronutrients and that you need to increase the amount of food that you have after a workout versus decreasing. A lot of people think, oh, well, I did that workout. I don't want to offset that with some food. You actually need that for your body.
Yeah.
So make sure that you eat a good breakfast. If you're on the go and you want some sort of parfait, you can have that. Just make sure it's real fat, not sugar. So I know there's a bunch of yogurts out there that can be very high levels of sugar as well as fructose is hidden in
Mhm.
there with
Okay.
like the little jellies that they have for fruits.
Okay.
So just make sure that you're eating something. If you want to add your own blueberries, add your own blueberries, fill it up with real food
Hmm.
versus, some sort of processed. Same
Nice.
thing in the mornings or the afternoons.
No, that's great advice. And I'm glad you mentioned workout as well, because that's huge to be able to manage stress, some type of regular exercise routine.
Yeah.
And people think that oh, I have to work out, this much or that much, but it's really just getting your body moving, right? Just maybe going for a walk or something like that,
Yep.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, just taking a walk outside can do your body wonders. So
Mhm. Mhm.
any little bit counts.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I agree with that. That is awesome. Now, what about breathing techniques? I've heard a lot
Yeah.
about that. How can that help with stress management?
So I would highly recommend this too in between, meeting. Let's say you're with one client in the morning and then a different client maybe 2 hours later. So you have that little window and you want to kind of close the door on the client you were with before because there's going to be new energy coming into the works with
Okay.
your secondary client. And so I would recommend taking there's two different techniques. There's one to boost energy and one just to get yourself calm and ready for the next thing. So deep belly breathing, you can place your hands. I always recommend just placing it like along your ribs and
Hmm.
inhaling through the nose. Feel the expansion going out to the side, forward and back, and feel how your body then lifts. And then exhale, knitting your ribs together, trying to get as much air out. So that's very simple. You can also add a 6 breath component where you're inhaling for 6,
Hmm.
holding that breath for trying to do for 8 counts,
Oh, wow.
and then exhaling for another 6. So
Okay.
intentionally being aware of the breath that's going on in the body by utilizing those counts, and then exhaling, release. So let's actually try that together.
Okay. So we
And
exhale through
I'll
the
count.
mouth or through the nose?
Inhale through the nose and then exhale through the mouth. So
Through
you're
the
really
mouth. Okay. That's
pushing
what I
the
thought.
air out
Okay. Yeah.
so you can feel everything kind of coming
Gotcha.
inside. So
Gotcha.
hands at the ribs,
Yeah.
and we're going to inhale. I'll count it. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let it go. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And just by doing that one time, already everything
Yeah.
from our brains just starts to
Mhm.
release a little bit, any sort of stress. And you can do that as
Yeah.
many times as you need it.
Yeah. I feel a lot calmer. That's
Right?
that's kind of cool. Okay.
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
there's one other one, and
Okay.
it is quick
Okay.
and it's kind of silly.
Yep.
So put one one finger on your nose.
Okay. Yeah.
It's so silly, but that's why I love it. And this is to kind of get a little bit more energy through our day. So let's
Okay.
say
Got
you're
it.
at that lull, you haven't been able to get your nutrition in that afternoon.
Mhm.
One finger here, and you're just going to sniff and exhale. So it's gonna go. It's all through the nose. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Switch.
Oh gosh.
You ready? 3, 2, 1. And you can do it as many times as you want. I usually count to 10 in my head,
Yeah. Yeah. Now I
and it
found it a
just
lot.
wakes everything up there
It does.
in the
I found
sinus.
it a lot more difficult to do it on one side than the other side. Is that normal? Like,
So the whole right brain, left brain thing?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so that's partially why. It's when our
Oh,
left side let's say right now the left is open. It's when our
okay,
left side of the brain, let's say, is just functioning a little bit less. Like, let's say that's
okay.
where the fogginess is coming from.
Right, right.
That's
Okay.
why that side might be slower. So let's say the right brain's, like, ready to go.
Okay,
That's why
cool,
it's a
cool.
little faster. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think my right side was a little less willing to go, but the left side was working. So that means my left brain's working more now, I guess. Okay.
Yes,
Wow,
exactly.
that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. I never
Yeah.
knew that. Learned something
Little
new.
science with meditation.
Yeah, yeah, that was fantastic. That's awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
Cool. Any other techniques that you want to share?
Yeah, another one. So we've got following your gut, we've got
Hmm.
breathing, and then the third one is my favorite, and it's
Okay.
implementing joyful breaks.
Oh, yeah.
So when you're doing this, I really want you, and especially because schedules in the summer can get a little hectic. You're
Okay.
maybe running from one thing to the other. If you have kiddos,
Hmm.
that can be very stressful because you have all their summer programs that now you have to bring them to. So I recommend making time for yourself to cultivate joy. And that could be learning a new skill. So maybe you download an app to learn French today. And that would be like your 5 minutes of joy.
Right.
And then maybe in the afternoon, you're like, I want to just go outside and take a walk.
Yeah.
You could start with 5 minutes, go to 30 minutes.
Okay.
So find those little breaks that really make sense to you that will provide energy and
Yeah.
freedom.
Okay. Awesome. So I don't have to feel guilty about taking a break and, maybe just watching something or reading something silly or playing a computer game or something like that. Right. So.
Exactly.
Okay, good, good, fantastic. No, that's awesome. So there you have it. We covered breathing techniques, taking joyful breaks, and listening to your gut as 3 ways to manage stress or reduce stress in your life. That's amazing. Thank you for sharing all that, Sarah.
Yeah.
And I did say I want to talk about your podcast a little bit. So I'm very curious how you came up with that name. What's your podcast all about? If you want to share that with the audience.
So as I was pivoting into corporate wellness, I realized that I needed to get myself out there more and
Hmm.
step outside of my comfort zone. So over the years, I've collected countless number of certifications from fitness to nutrition to wellness. And
Okay.
I felt like I wanted to connect more with other people for the first season that were very similar into that mission of trying to
Mm.
get the world to be a healthier, more productive, fun place.
Okay.
So I had these conversations with experts, and then that led to my second year, which is the season that's going on now, and it's getting people to understand how to invest in themselves and how to make time. Kind of what we've talked about today. Doesn't matter your occupation. Talking about pivoting, just
Mm.
finding those moments for you to express yourself and find that freedom. So, solutions is much more fun than solutions, right? So, I want people to do what's good for them first,
Yeah.
and then they'll be able to help others at a greater level.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. No, I love it. I love it. What's good for the soul, right? That's good. Fantastic. So, where can people find you? What's the best place to go? Instagram?
So they can find me on Instagram at
Perfect.
Sarah Elise Coaching is the best way to connect with me. I
Perfect.
respond there most frequently. So yeah, get in touch with me. And if you have work for a company or you yourself have your business, I do a lot of stress management consulting. So
Okay.
never feel afraid to reach out.
Fantastic. That's amazing. Thank you very much, Sarah. This was fantastic. And it provided a little uplift for me today as well. The breathing.
Good.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. And thank you to all who tuned in today. Any last words, Sarah, before I sign off?
Well, I'll just use my sign right here. Motivate the mind, everyone, and the body will follow.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. All right. Have a great day, everybody. Take care.